Tyler, appreciate you joining the stream. And our first, made a little history here on Bear Down and Beyond. First ever guest of the week. It's something that I had
Oh,
an
nice.
idea for last season where I'm trying to just kind of get content creators of the other teams, ideally, to jump on the stream, talk about the upcoming game against the Bears, get a little
Right.
bit more insight on your team. Obviously, we don't follow the Titans on a religious basis like we do the Bears. So,
Right.
just an
Right.
informal conversation, just, talking football, talking sports, talking about this game. But we'd love to kick off just a little bit, learn a little bit more about Locked On Titans. How long have you been working on that brand? You guys are kicking ass on YouTube over there, over like 13K subscribers. So we'd love to learn a little bit more about how you got into the content creation game before we go straight into the preview.
Sure. So, I guess it's kind of a crazy story. So I went to college at the third best sports journalism school in the country at Ohio University. Um, Sadly, like a lot of people I know, I didn't have money to finish college. It wasn't like I didn't have good grades. You know what I mean? Like my family was just broke and college is too expensive. It's like crazy. So I like went home and just started doing like, I'm good at talking. So I was doing like customer service and stuff like that. Well, when I was 28, I got fired from a job. It wasn't even my fault. My boss is a moron. And I knew about the Locked On podcast, and the Titans podcast hadn't come out in like 3 months. I grew up playing football. My dad was like the president of my Pee Wee organization. He was a coach my whole life. Like I've always loved the ins and outs of the game. So I got let go of my job. And the next day I'm like depressed, sitting on my bed, like, what am I going to do, man? And I send an email to the person who runs the Locked On network. Like, I went to college for this. I know I haven't done it in a while, but like, just give me a shot. And that was 5 years ago. So going into season 6 for me here now. And, yeah, that's how it happened. But I did a lot of work for free, like writing for websites and stuff like that for free before. So it's kind of one of those industries where you kind of got to do it for little to no money for a while till somebody really gives you a shot to make some money doing it. And luckily, it all worked out. But yeah, it was kind of a crazy path there. But that's how I got into doing it. But once, your foot's in the door, I just work as hard as possible. I have a film channel on YouTube as well called Tic Tac Titans, where I just focus on breaking down film. And yeah, that's pretty much the story in a nutshell.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm assuming you're located right in Nashville or at least Tennessee somewhere. Or are you somewhere else?
No, I'm from Ohio. So I'm from Dayton, Ohio, which is kind of crazy because there's like a lot of people where I'm from that are Titans fans because Eddie George connection and they were a new team. So it's like there's like 20 people who I went to school with who were all Titans fans just here in the middle of Ohio.
Oh, very cool. I mean, that's not kind of foreign to myself as I'm in upstate New York as a diehard Bears fan. My dad's born and raised in Chicago, so I was just curious if there was a local connection there because I did go to Nashville last year for my cousin's bachelor party, and the stadium is right there in downtown. And
it's awesome.
My life bucket list is to watch a Bears game in every stadium with my father. And I can't wait for the Titans to pop up on there because we're definitely going to that one because Nashville is plenty of fun and it's right in downtown.
You say that, but to bring both my parents into it, there is sort of a local connection. I've been to Tennessee more than I've been to any other state. My mom vacations Tennessee multiple times a year, every year. So like going with her to Tennessee also had something to do with me picking the Titans to be my team when I was a little kid, because that's like somewhere that I've been to, So I'm like, oh, I've been there, And then me and my dad are going to the Packers game in Tennessee in 3 weeks. So I'll check that off my bucket list, actually.
Nice. How often do you get to go to a game on average per season?
I try to go to 3
nice.
a game. But the reality is, since I started doing the podcast, if I'm honest with you, it not only is it expensive to go to games, but I lose money because my production after the game, my content after the game is not as good. It sets me behind on my film stuff. I can't go live. I don't have my background. I'm not at home.
Yeah.
You might have a beer or two at the game. Maybe I'm not as good as I would be otherwise.
Well,
stuff
I'm
like that.
Better with my beer, so.
Yeah, there you go. Some people are, some people aren't. You know what I mean? It's like golf. Some people are a lot better drunk. I can't do anything drunk. I lose my will. But yeah, so I do like to go to games because I want to make sure that I'm still enjoying the fan experience like I should. But it's also not as appetizing to me because I know that it just makes my job much harder, and I'm spending the money to go, even though I can write it off of my taxes and things like that. But it's still a big production. But I always go to the Indianapolis game because that's close to where I live. That's the closest stadium. If they play in Cincy, I go there because that's pretty close too. But I always try to go to one game in Nashville and then go to the Indianapolis game to be close. So I usually get 2, but I'm trying to get 3, every year going forward.
No, it's a couple things that you brought up there. One, the taking the time off to go to the game is expensive, but then you lose production
It
and
is.
content. And I'm just putting in Sweat Equity. This is a brand that I just started. I did content creation. I've always been a diehard Bears fan, and people who watch games with me in person and are like, I'm a little animated. I'm a little not
No, that's cool.
unnaturally, but
I
I'm
am
just an
too.
animated
Yeah.
Bears fan. So like people
Right,
record
right.
me and post me and stuff like that, and then like I would be saying something before the announcers or something say it, and then I'll just say something funny like that is probably just not appropriate or whatever. But I was like, I just got to make a page on the Bears, my passion for it, and then I was doing content creation for other types of verticals prior to this, but like I am doing some traveling in October, going overseas, and I had to time it. It's actually in Europe, but
Cool.
the Bears play in London, so I had to time it. Long
Oh.
story short, I do understand what you're saying with sacrificing time, and then you're sacrificing content and views, engagement, and me. This is
Yep.
just season 2 of me doing this. My first season was last year, and we had a lot of growth, and a lot of things that I'm trying to be more consistent and work on, and be more consistent to see more results at the end of the season. But it's funny that you mentioned that, but also keep an eye on those Indianapolis Colts tickets, because like I mentioned, me and my father have a bucket list, and we were going to drive from Syracuse, New York, which is not probably too far from me, I don't believe, because we were going to drive to Indianapolis, about a 10-hour drive. But when we looked
It's
up
a great stadium. It really is a great stadium. Like there's no bad seat, and Colts fans are, they're good. They're a good fan base, but they aren't like super hateful and rude or something like you would get maybe at like a Philly game or a New York game. But all I can tell you, man, is with the content, as somebody who's been doing it, is taking a lot of hate for different things. No matter what you say, there are going to be people that give you crap, no matter what.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just be yourself and live with the results. That's it. Just say what you truly feel, be yourself, and live with the results, because you try to please people, they're going to be mad. You don't, they're going to be mad. So I just learned, a while back that what I'm doing, I'm just going to say how I feel and do what I want and live with the results, because I'd rather be me than fake it.
No, 100%. I love the trolls. I encourage the trolls because that's engagement
Right.
and it helps
Right.
the
It's
algorithm.
part of the game, man. It's part of this, like, just the online culture. And the reason that we're able to make content and do stuff like this is because the online culture. So you can't be like mad about the other side of it too. You know what I mean? Like it's all in the game, baby. It's all in the game.
Yeah, I've had things thrown at me like personally, and I was like funny. I was like, damn, I really look like that or whatever. Like they come at you first, I'm like, that is actually really funny. But I was trying to say with the Colts game is me and my father like to sit like 50, 40, 45-yard line, anywhere between 5 to 20 rows up. We like to just have a nice view of the game. But the Colts game in that area was about $1,100 per ticket. And it's like, did the inflation go that high in the NFL? Because last year we went to the
that's
Commanders.
crazy.
We went to the Commanders last year. It was like $400 or $500. We're like, whatever. Me and my dad doing a bonding thing, father and son, and then
Right.
so I was like, let me go look. So I was like looking at the Texans and all these other games. I was like, no, it's just the Colts game that was ridiculously priced for that area. So we're ending up going to the Arizona Cardinals game because the tickets were $500 instead of $1,100. That difference times 2 pays for the flight. Pays
That's
for,
the flight.
pays for the hotel. So long story short, I was like, just look out for those Colts tickets this year. They're acting like they're the Kansas City Chiefs or something.
Thank you for the warning.
No,
I appreciate that. Yeah. Hey, it's like everything else with the Colts right now. Overhyped.
Right. Well, yeah, that's your rival right there. I didn't even think about that connection with the AFC South.
Yeah, I'm sick of it. It doesn't matter who their quarterback is. The corpse of Phillip Rivers, the corpse of Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, the knucklehead himself. Everybody acted like the Colts were going to the Super Bowl those years, and they never do.
No. Well, that jumps us right into it. I would love to talk before we get into the game some insight around the Titans. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't look at there's game by game schedule, but I know.
Oh, you're fine. I got you.
Well, that's what we got you on here for. So I know,
Right.
Will Levis, you guys had some key additions and losses, but what are the expectations for the upcoming season for the Titans? I do have them on I do a lot of gambling. I don't know if you bet on anything or if it's even legal in Ohio. Or if you got like MyBookie or like
FanDuel, baby. FanDuel Sportsbook /locked on.
So you do have a legal. I didn't know if it was illegal in Ohio yet, but
yeah, it's legal. Yeah, it's cool.
I do like the Titans as one of those teams that maybe could be, a little bit underrated or whatever. But what are at least from your perspective, what is your guys' expectations for the season and a division that is getting pretty competitive with obviously the Texans, the Colts with a healthy AR, and then you got the Jaguars with
Mhm.
Trevor Lawrence. So that is a competitive division. But what are your guys' expectations?
Well, I think really the number one thing is the arrow pointing up. Like it's not a win total, it's not a statistical thing. It's the Titans need to be a team that are getting better. They get so obviously just to throw a number on it, I think they need to win more than 6 games that they won last year. Like they need to at least win 8 games. To
Mm-hmm.
me, is what you would hope that they would win. Just be a competitive football team, be an on the bubble team that maybe just doesn't have enough to get across the finish line. I predicted them to go 9-8. I think, maybe that's a little optimistic. I think 8-9, probably ultimately where they land up, depending on a couple of games, but it's right in there. But I think really the expectation is that they improve as a team and Will Levis is the quarterback, right? Like we need to know there needs to be no more question after the season that Will Levis is the guy. Period. No question about it. So the expectations, while everybody wants to hear make the playoffs, Pro Bowlers, this really they just need Will Levis to play well and be the answer, and that'll lead to a competitive season, and that'll lead to success in the future and hope. Really, at the end of the day, you sell wins or you sell hope, and right now, I think the Titans should be selling hope.
Yeah, I mean that kind of gets us into my next question. Is you mentioned Will Levis, right? How
Mhm.
is Titans Nation feeling about Will Levis? Are they confident in that? Obviously, Ryan Tannehill was getting too old, and you had a lot of change in regime with Mike Vrabel leaving and all that good stuff. New head coach, I believe he comes from the college, scene, right? I forgot his, I can't pronounce his
No,
last.
Bengals offensive coordinator. It's Brian Callahan.
Okay,
He's from Chicago, actually.
okay. So you guys got a new.
Callahan, like Tommy Callahan from what is it? Tommy Boy.
Oh, yep, yep. So you guys do have that new head coach, but how are you guys feeling about Will Levis? And you don't have to tell me, us Bears fans, second year quarterback, we really got to figure out at the end of this year, is this our guy? Because we went through
Right.
that cycle of misery for the last several, probably since before I was born, until Jim McMahon and Sid Luckman were playing, right? So we know that pain, but what are your guys' expectation and how you guys feel about Will Levis? Is it kind of split, between different, sides of the Titans fans nation, or how's that working out for you guys?
I would say that it's probably like 80 to 20%. Like 80% of fans believe and are optimistic. And then I would say like 20% of fans are not optimistic and don't believe. And half of that 20%, so 10% of the fans are Vols fans who just are going to hate Will Levis no matter what because he played at Kentucky, which there are still a ton of those people. So that's the way that I would look at it, 80 to 20%. And ultimately, though, that doesn't even matter. Like, if Will Levis goes out and plays well and wins, that's going to change. And the fans' opinion of Will Levis isn't going to affect how he plays on the field. So hopefully none of that matters. And he forces people to be at 100%.
No, yeah, I know he had if I remember correctly, he had a couple decent games last year. He had like that four
Mhm.
touchdown game last year, when I remember. And
Yep.
then, DeAndre Hopkins is definitely a nice, weapon to have is for a young
For
quarterback.
sure.
But they just I'm really excited to not only watch my Bears, but obviously a young quarterback like Will Levis, because these are the
Mhm.
faces of the NFL, and you want to kind of see those storylines develop. And this is his second year, and it's really crucial. Um,
There's a lot of unknown with both these teams. The Titans on offense and defense because of the new coaching staff. Not only that, but the Bears with Caleb Williams and their new offensive coordinator. Like there's a lot of unknown with both these teams. The only thing that isn't unknown is the Bears defense. So I think that makes it a very intriguing game in and of itself.
No, yeah, Montez Sweat is on the injury report with a toe. I think he'll tough it out. I think you know how the injury
I do
reports are.
too.
So
Keenan Allen's on there too.
yeah,
They were both full participants in practice on Friday, but then they were listed as questionable on the thing, which to me is a major eye roll at Matt Eberflus. But they're gonna play. I think there were a couple other injury notes, like Daryl Taylor popped up with a foot injury. I would be a little worried about that. There's a backup interior defensive lineman whose name is
for the Bears.
not, yeah, not popping into my
Oh,
head, who I
Walker,
think was
is it
ruled out.
Demarcus Walker? I believe is on the injury
No,
report.
he was on the injury report, but he wasn't ruled out. I think he's questionable right now. But I know a lot about DeMarcus Walker, obviously, with
Yeah,
him
yeah, for
being
sure.
a former Tennessee Titan. I know that his inside outside rush versatility is something that can really be a problem. But yeah, I think overall, like DeAndre Hopkins is questionable. I don't know if he's going to play, but overall, both teams are pretty healthy. So I don't think there are any major injury excuses for either team at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, for sure. Before we get into the injuries, because before we jumped on, I was scrolling on Twitter, aka X, and I did see
It's
some
always Twitter
official
to me.
listing. Yeah, right. It's still Twitter. I did see some listed, I think official from actual like legit people on Twitter. Injury updates. I think D Hops is officially ruled out. I think Jamal Adams is officially ruled out for you guys.
Hop isn't ruled out yet. He's questionable going
No,
into
he's
the
not.
game, but Adams is out.
Okay.
That is true.
I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah.
you guys even picked him up. But before we get into that, like, is there some pieces that I think I saw a couple things on your feed today, especially after watching the game last night. You know, you had some key losses. Mike Vrabel. I was a big fan of him, just especially as a better because he always, was across the spread and the profitable across the
Yeah,
spread.
yeah, they would cover.
You added at Calvin Ridley. You lost Derrick Henry. You added, Tony Pollard and Byard is one of our guys now. And I do have a question about Nate Davis after, as we get through because he's been a question mark for us since last season when we signed him. And then you got Snead. So,
Right.
is there some players that you're excited to have on the team and some players that, you're sad to kind of see go that you were key pieces to your guys' team for the last few years and how you guys adjusted to fill those holes?
I gotta be honest with you. The only player that I was really sad to see go was Danico Autry. He went to the Houston Texans, but they paid him $10 million a year for a guy who's 34, and then he got popped for a 6-game suspension for PEDs. So I guess I was sad to see Danico go, but I guess it was for the best because he would be out for the first 6 games. If not, honestly, the Titans needed a refresh. Like I was ready for Derrick Henry to go. As you saw in that game with Baltimore, he's a limiting player. They have to put Justice Hill in to run most of their offense because Derrick Henry can't get out of the backfield and run routes. He's not really a good guy catching the ball. He's not a great pass protector. So he just doesn't, he's not an every down back. And it's just hard to have these old school bell cow backs and build an offense around him. And now that Derrick Henry's kind of declining as a player, he's still good. He's still good, but he's not great like he was a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? Like you can't build an entire offense around a running back who's just good.
Yeah.
You can't build an entire offense around a running back, period, in today's NFL, even great ones. So I was kind of happy for the refresh. Mike Vrabel is a good head coach, but he wasn't the right head coach for the Titans and where they're at with a young team and a young quarterback and kind of at the bottom. I think Vrabel is a guy who needs to be the head coach of a veteran team that's ready to compete for a Super Bowl right away. So I was happy to move on and move to Brian Callahan, who built the offense in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow for the last few years, worked with Matthew Stafford in Detroit, worked with Peyton Manning when he won a championship with the Broncos. He's the son of Bill Callahan, who took the Raiders to the Super Bowl in the early 2000s. And now Bill Callahan is the Titans offensive line coach. The Titans had the worst offensive line in the last few years, and now they get the best offensive line coach. So that's something that they really needed. So I'm really happy about all those changes. Calvin Ridley is my favorite offseason addition. Last year, the Titans had Hopkins, Burks, Nick Westbrook-Akine, which if you've never heard of him, I can't blame you.
I play a lot of
Okay,
fantasy.
NWI as we like to call him. But that trio was the worst wide receiver group in the NFL at creating separation. DeAndre Hopkins has never been like a big separator. He just can jump over you and catch the ball and like no matter what. So that works for him, but it doesn't work for anybody else. And now there's nobody open because nobody gets open. So adding Calvin Ridley and his speed as a guy who's a great separator, that is exactly what the Titans needed. They had Tyler Boyd too to help move the chains in the slot. Snead on the outside. Obviously, the Titans had one of the worst cornerback rooms in the NFL for the last few years. They add Cheeto Awuzie, and then they add Snead in the trade. I'm really happy about what they've added, and that's why I think they'll be a competitive team this year. But there are definitely still some weak areas on the team that need to be improved that are probably going to hold them back from being like a real playoff certified contender, maybe fight for a Super Bowl. I don't think they're in that realm yet because they still got some roster work to do next year.
Yeah, who's their defensive coordinator? Who did they pick up as their DC?
They actually took a guy from so he was with Philadelphia in 2022, number one pass defense. Went to be the DB coach for the Ravens, number one pass defense. He had the most interviews, 5, of any defensive coordinator candidate in the NFL. His name's Denard Wilson. He's a guy who people think could be like the next D'Amico Ryans.
Okay.
Like he's a young defensive guy with a lot of energy who all the players like and respect. Real smart wizard guy on defense. So excited to see what he can bring to the table because it's going to be a total change from what the Titans used to do on defense. And I'm very curious to see how it works out.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. That's good to know. Your guys' boy Jeffrey Simmons over there made some comments
Ah, my guy.
a couple months ago. Talking. He's gonna be talking trash to Caleb Williams
Oh
about
yeah,
the way he paints
big.
his nails and stuff. So us Bears
Yup.
fans, we're real sensitive. We take a lot of pride in our quarterback. Whether it's Justin, we are always backing our guys up. So really excited to see this matchup and kind of see how that trash talking results on the field. But something I want to make note. I don't know if you remember seeing those comments, maybe a couple months ago or something like that. He was trolling Caleb a little bit about the painted nails and
Yeah.
everything.
Which I don't blame him. I mean, it's football.
No,
Football is
100%.
ultra masculine. So, I mean, I'm not hating on Caleb Williams and his fashion choices. I really don't give a damn what you do with your fingernails at this point. But you got to expect you do some stuff like that. Like, Will Levis can't go anywhere without people making fun of him for a silly video with mayo in his coffee. So, of course, other NFL players are going to give Caleb Williams crap about painting his fingernails. But all I can tell you is he's going to use those fingers to throw the football. And if he keeps doing that the way he did it in the preseason, nobody's going to be making fun of him for very long.
That's why us Bears Nation, we were so excited. We thought we had the next Patrick Mahomes before he started the preseason games. But now that we saw him make a couple magical throws and in 20 snaps, Bears Nation's going crazy. What are you guys, we talked a lot about the Titans. Is there anything regarding the Bears that have you guys a little bit on the edge? You mentioned the defense a little bit earlier in our conversation. What has got you your eyebrows raised a little bit when it comes to this Bears team? I know there's a lot of unknowns with the new offensive coordinator and Caleb, but we do have DJ Moore, we do have Keenan Allen, a run game that's still strong. So just curious, kind of what your guys' perspective of us is.
Well, I know all of the skill position players are exciting. Like, I love DJ Moore. I want it, honestly, if I were the Titans general manager, I would have taken Rome Odunze at 7. Now, I may be wrong about that because the Titans' offensive line's so bad, and J.C. Latham looks like he could be pretty good. But if I would have been in the chair, I would have selected Rome Odunze. So I'm a big Rome Odunze fan. I also love some people on the Bears defense too, like Kyler Gordon. But what I'm most worried about is how good the Bears run defense is. So the Bears were like one of the top run defenses in the NFL last year. And I think in this first week in a hostile environment in Chicago, the fans are going to be going nuts for Caleb Williams' debut. The Titans have a brand new offense with brand new wide receivers, and that communication, when it's loud out there and the Titans got to make adjustments, it could be hard. So I think the most important thing the Titans can do in this game is run the football. And if they can run the football with success, then they don't have to face so many third and longs where they got to make these adjustments based on the coverage alignment and everything like that. So I want the Titans to be able to run the football. I think that's going to be important, and it's going to be hard on the Bears defense. So I'm a little worried about that. And then looking at Caleb Williams on offense, I've been saying all week that one of my big keys to victory is keeping Caleb Williams in the pocket. So you go watch him at USC, the way that he plays, he gets outside the pocket. He does that Patrick Mahomes stuff, throwing the ball across his body, playing sandlot football like it's backyard stuff. You can't let him get in his natural element. He's going to be naturally uncomfortable. It's his first NFL game. It's his first day on the job. Anybody who's ever had a job or done anything, you're a little nervous. You don't know exactly what to do. Quarterbacks that were drafted number 1 overall are 0-14-1 in like the last 20 years. Okay. So rookie quarterbacks are going to struggle in their first game no matter what. What you can't do is you can't make it easy for Caleb Williams to get outside of the pocket, because then he's away from Jeffrey Simmons coming up the middle. He's away from the blitzers coming up the middle, and he's going to get out there and do all that sandlot stuff. So I think the Titans really got to be disciplined in their pass rush and keep him inside the pocket. If he gets out and starts to play make, that will have me incredibly worried.
Yeah, I'm super excited as a Bears fan to kind of see how Caleb plays. You mentioned that defense. I have the utmost confidence in our defense.
It's exciting.
What I've been saying all offseason long, the one weak spot in our defense is the pass rusher outside of Montez Sweat on the opposite side of Montez Sweat.
Correct.
Austin Booker is a man that is being talked about a lot as the rookie that we drafted.
I like Austin Booker.
Yeah, so we'll see.
He's a little skinny. He's going to have to put on some weight at the NFL level, but I like his athleticism and his speed. So I think he can make some plays in some rush packages. You put DeMarcus Walker on the inside, let Austin Booker come in and play on the edge. I think that's a good rush package.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite finished there yet. I feel like Ryan Poles, he's a magician when it comes to trades. Yeah, he whiffed on a couple like Chase Claypool and drafting Velus Jones, but in the middle of the season when there's a team like the Patriots or whoever's kind of going downhill and they need to get rid of some players, he'll find that person, especially when it comes to October, November, when it's time
Hmm.
for that playoff push. But our defense, I have the most confidence in. I'm not, our secondary is top 3, 5 secondary, I believe, in the league. And we got your boy Byron from and our safety replacing no hit Eddie Jackson, who did not like to tackle a fly on the wall. So
Well,
uh,
Bayer definitely will tackle. That's one thing you don't got to worry about with KB. He's a professional. He's gonna make tackles.
no, for sure, and I'm super excited to have him. Who should the Bears look out for when it comes to the Titans? They know they got a second-year quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins will be a little banged up, if not even in shape. Perhaps because he's kind of missed a lot during
Right?
the training camp. No Jamal Adams, Tony Pollard doesn't really scare me too much, especially against our defense. But who are some players that you got? You've been watching all off season and training camp that would, be a game changer for the Titans or, key pieces for a Titans victory, so to speak.
Well, I would say number one is Calvin Ridley. The Titans gave him the big contract in the offseason, and I talked about why his addition was so great based on what the Titans had last year, 10 minutes ago. I explained that. So
Yeah.
I don't need to dive into that again. But what I will say is one vulnerability in the secondary that I see is Tyreek Stevenson. Tyreek Stevenson gave up the most receiving touchdowns in the NFL last year. He gave up the second most catches. He gave up the third most yards. So I want Calvin Ridley on Tyreek Stevenson, and that is a matchup that I think the Titans can abuse. Not only that, but Matt Eberflus obviously came from the Tampa 2 defensive tree, but he's run a lot of cover 3 lately too. But he will go to some cover 2 in third and long situations. And if the Titans can get Calvin Ridley on posts or deep crossers into the honey hole in the middle of the cover 2 defense, I think he can catch the ball in the middle of the field and use his speed to make explosive plays. So if I want to tell Bears fans something to look out for, I would look out for Calvin Ridley against Tyreek Stevenson. And I know the thought would be, oh, put Jalen Johnson on him. Okay, that's great, but Calvin Ridley is a Z wide receiver, not an X wide receiver. So he's not just going to be planted on the line of scrimmage to make for easy presses for Jalen Johnson. They're going to pull him in motion constantly, and you're not going to be able to press him. And then it's just a one-on-one matchup about speed. And I still feel pretty confident in Calvin Ridley, one of the fastest receivers in the league. So Calvin Ridley is a guy who, if the Bears could shut down Calvin Ridley and make sure he doesn't do anything, I think it'll go a long way to them having success. And then on the other side of it, again, it's all about Jeffrey Simmons. So I think where the Bears are vulnerable is the interior offensive line.
Yeah.
Nate Davis, Coleman Shelton is the
Yep.
center's name. I know that Tevin Jenkins is a good player at left guard. He got a lot better
when healthy. And
when healthy.
week
Yeah,
one,
but he's
knock
healthy
on
right
wood,
now.
we'll
So
see.
Right. So I think, and he's a big-bodied guy who used to play tackle. So I think that having Jeffrey Simmons go up against him nonstop would be a waste of time. I think you want to put T'Vondre Sweat over Tevin Jenkins and let them kind of battle it out, and then let Jeffrey Simmons go against Nate Davis, who, while being a good run-blocking player when he gets downhill because he's got good feet and good size to go with it, he's not as good going backwards because he doesn't have a great center of gravity and he doesn't have great punch. So I think Jeffrey Simmons can eat Nate Davis alive, quite honestly, and I would look for that matchup. The Bears are going to have to find a way to slide that way, and if they do that, then T'Vondre Sweat's going to have a one-on-one with Tevin Jenkins, and I wasn't very high on the T'Vondre Sweat pick. I don't know if you caught any of my reaction to that, but I had a very strong reaction that I didn't like that pick. But he's kind of proven me wrong in training camp, and he's been very good in the preseason as well. So if T'Vondre Sweat gets the one-on-one, you got to hope from a Titans fan's perspective that your second-round pick, who's been excellent in training camp, can win that matchup a couple of times too. So the interior rush for the Titans against the interior trio of the offensive line for the Bears, most notably Jeffrey Simmons in that matchup, that's kind of where, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm like, I hope the Titans don't win too much there, because that's definitely a spot where they can win. I like the Bears tackles and Braxton Jones and especially Darnell Wright on the opposite side. So I would really look, and the Titans are going to blitz a lot up the middle, like in the A gaps on both sides of the center. The Titans want to blitz their linebackers a ton. So I'm really looking to bring pressure in the A gaps and hope that, again, it comes back to, it's a full circle idea. I want to keep Caleb Williams in the pocket and not let him escape, and then bring pressure up the middle through the interior. And then he's got nowhere to go, because if he tries to bounce outside, then the edges are going to be there and disciplined and ready for him. And there's nowhere to step up in the middle because of the interior rush and pressure. And that's how you create mistakes and how you create turnovers and how you win football games. So that's kind of my defensive schematic plan for the Titans, as just a guy in a basement at the end of the day.
No, that's good, and that's good. And you're a lot more into the X's and O's than my crazy,
That's kind of my
fanatic
specialty,
yeah.
man. When I decided to make content, I realized I I knew football to a point. Again, my dad was a coach. I really care about the X's and O's and stuff like that. It's something that I was always drawn to. So doing the film, like I said, I have my film channel on YouTube as well. That's kind of my specialty, I guess. If I'm a power hitter, the power aspect is I really know my film, and I try to combine that with some hot opinions and hot takes that it just naturally come out. But when I have that film background too, it really helps me be knowledgeable without just being a hot take artist. You got to have something else to go to too. So that's kind of and for Bears fans listening, at Tic Tac Titans on YouTube, I'm going to be breaking down this game. So you're going to see a lot about the Bears in the process as well.
Is that like the post game video that you do, or is that like during the game, or?
No, I do that stuff during the week because I don't get the all 22 film, like the coaches film. I don't get that until like Monday during the day. So I do my Locked On Titans podcast every day where I'm just kind of talking about the talking points, but the film videos come out throughout the week. This is my first year with the channel. I've been doing film on Twitter, and I'm like, why am I doing this only on Twitter when I should do it on YouTube too?
Yeah.
So I started the YouTube channel this off season, and throughout the regular, like Monday, I'm going to have the top 4 plays that break down all the top 4 plays. I call it the Tic Tac 4-pack, Tic Tac Titans, Tic Tac 4-pack. I'm corny. I am a corny middle-aged white guy, but I love it. I love it. So, because I'm breaking down the X's and O's, Tic Tac Titans, X's and O's.
I love it. I love it. And you do know your stuff, because one of the biggest weak spots on the Bears, and I've been preaching this all off season. I was hoping they were going to get a little bit better addition there to fill that, is the interior of the offensive lineman. You mentioned Coleman Shelton from the Rams, and then Ryan Bates that we got from the Bills. I think Bates is injured though. So we've been a rotating offensive line in the interior all preseason long because of some injuries, but the center position is a big unknown for the Bears right now, and I wish we kind of got a bigger name, even paying a little bit cheaper. I think it's the Seahawks that picked up Connor Williams. I was really high on getting him.
They did.
Yeah, I was hoping.
I liked Connor Williams. Yeah. I liked him as an option if he was healthy. That coming back from the ACL last year, you never know what you're going to get, but clearly he's healthy enough because Seattle picked him up. So that could be, egg on a lot of people's faces who needed a center here in a couple of weeks.
And they got him for cheap. And he wasn't going to need to be our solution day one because we had Shelton, because we had Bates and competing for that center position. But outside pass rusher, outside of Montez Sweat, the center position of that offensive line was my biggest question mark. And for a rookie quarterback, because Justin Fields went through it too with Lucas Patrick, that was, not really stopping, much over there in the center position. That's very important for a young quarterback to have that center position secured. And that's a key position that's going to be important for Caleb, not just this Sunday, but throughout the course of the season. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously where I think the Titans are going to try to attack the team, and I'm certain they'll have a plan for it. Like if I'm the Bears, I'm going to, you see the tight end, instead of being out next to the offensive tackle, have him lined up a yard deep in the backfield, kind of in the B gap, and then he can help inside. The running back can help inside. I'm sure the Bears have been watching what the Titans have been doing in the preseason. Everybody says it's vanilla stuff in the preseason. Teams are running their bread and butter stuff. It's not like they run stuff that they're not going to run in the real games. They're just running their base playbook, which is still the stuff that they're going to rely on. And the Titans were still blitzing a ton with that vanilla going on. So, which vanilla gets a bad rap, man. Vanilla is my favorite flavor of ice cream.
It is my
by
favorite
far.
flavor too.
Yeah, it's not boring. It's delicious. All right, and I don't like the connotation of that vanilla is used with these days, but that's a different story for a different time. But yeah, I think the Titans are going to blitz a ton. So I'm certain the Bears know that and have at least a plan to deal with it. We'll just see on Sunday whether the plan works.
No, yeah, for sure. And that gets us into maybe some score predictions. I don't want to hold you up too long on your Friday night here. We got a Eagles versus Packers game that's going on.
The Eagles are imploding already.
Yeah, I had it to the side. I haven't even looked over there. I got some bets. I got A.J. Brown in my fantasy. I'm assuming you do some fantasy?
Oh, yeah. I've been playing fantasy since I was like 13 years old, which is 20 years now. It's kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, Jalen Hurts already threw a pick, and they fumbled a snap as well. So 2 turnovers in the first quarter for the Eagles. Yep. Packers are trying to blow it up a little bit here, but the Eagles defense is holding on tight. So I'm so happy to have football back. Last night was a great game too.
That game was amazing. What are some of your thoughts on that Isaiah Likely if he was just a half inch shoe size smaller? And
Right, right.
Patrick
Well, if
Mahomes,
Lamar Jackson didn't totally miss the 2 throws before that, it wouldn't have mattered.
Zay
He missed
Flowers, right?
Likely when Likely got hurt in the corner of the end zone, and then he overthrew Zay Flowers. I guess he was throwing to Rashad Bateman instead, but
Yeah.
he said he should have held the ball one more second and threw it to Flowers. So, everybody loves Lamar, and I get it. He's exciting to watch, but everybody makes these excuses for him. Oh, so unlucky, one toe. Yeah, but he missed 2 throws before that. So don't miss those throws in the clutch when his guys are wide open. And then it doesn't matter. And you're in overtime or you're going for 2 or whatever. So I was a little critical of Lamar after that game on I also host Locked on NFL as well. So I got to react to that game on Locked on NFL this morning. And yeah, I was a little critical of Lamar, but I feel like everybody's made a lot of excuses for him at this point. It was his wide receivers. They gave him new wide receivers. It was offensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. It was the offensive line, new offensive line. And it's never good enough, and it's still the coach's fault, and the wide receivers, and the line's fault,
Well,
and just go on and on. It's
it's
like Trevor Lawrence, just nothing but excuses all the time.
well, it's Patrick Mahomes. You just can't stop Patrick Mahomes. He's one of
True.
a kind. And last night we had our Sweat the Bet live stream series where I put a high wager bet on a
Oh,
game
cool.
we do every Thursday night football, and I had Patrick Mahomes over 258.5 passing yards. That was a lock that hit. And then I also
Yep.
don't forget your no sweat bets on FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah,
I had,
yeah.
Derrick Henry, first time touchdown score for the
Beautiful.
game and that hit. So we're living a little green. We have just a little half a unit on Saquon tonight. And then I got AJ Brown in my fantasy league. That's a $4,000 pot. So
Well, I love AJ Brown, so
Yeah.
I'm rooting for AJ Brown. That's the Titans are morons for getting rid of him.
Oh,
So
yeah, I forgot about that
I
Titans
will. I
connection
will.
there.
Good. Keep forgetting about it. I wish I could forget about it, to be honest with you, but it's scarred. I think I'll think about that. I think I'll think about that my entire life. Like when the light is going out of my eyes. One of the memories that I remember is the moment the Titans traded AJ Brown. I loved AJ Brown. He made me feel like a fan again. Like when I cover the team, like you're still a fan, but it's also still like work.
Yeah.
At some point, like I like the Lakers. And watching Laker games is different for me because I don't got to work. I don't got to think critically. I can just enjoy a game and be a fan and be mad and be happy and blah, 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 blah. When I'm doing the Titans, I got to kind of keep a level head about things. I can't get too crazy. So watching AJ Brown, really, when he did stuff, I would stand up and scream, like it was so crazy how good he was. And for them to get rid of him, no wonder the general manager got fired.
What did they get rid of him for? Was it a second?
Treylon Burks. They switched picks. They didn't even get a first-round pick back. They switched first-round picks with the Eagles. Or no, they didn't because they traded back with the Jets after that. But they got the number 18 pick and drafted Treylon Burks with it.
Yikes.
Yikes. Yikes. Nothing else other to say.
Well, you had that you said in your last days in that final light, and you're seeing this trade. Us Bears fans, especially me, is going to be when we trade up for Mitch Trubisky and not Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
But now we got Caleb, so all is well. We'll see how that turns out. But
yeah, there you go.
So score predictions here, Tyler. What are you thinking? Who do you got winning? I mean, you don't have to do a score prediction, but if you want to just do it, who you think you're going to win, who's going to win, and if you got a score behind it.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, I don't mind doing any of that. What I would say is I came into the week thinking that the Bears would win, but honestly, I looked at that the pass rush spot outside of Montez Sweat, and the Titans have a young offensive line that could be a problem, but I'm not as worried about the Bears pass rush as I was before the season. I'll be honest, I just hadn't done enough research into the Bears, and I'm just thinking, Montez Sweat, Bears defense is good, but looking at the actual roster, I'm just not. I don't think the Titans will be overwhelmed by the pass rush if they just help on Montez Sweat with like a tight end, help one of the offensive tackles, double team Montez Sweat, and kind of live with everybody else and see what happens. And then on the flip side, I do think the Titans can take advantage of the interior trio of the Bears line, and that's where they're going to want to attack anyway. So I had the Bears winning this game 21-20, but I've changed my prediction in the middle of the week after doing some more research. And I do have the Titans winning 20-17. But as most of my listeners would say, that probably means the Titans are going to lose because I never pick them right. When I think they win, they lose. When I think they lose, they win. So that's probably a good sign for the Bears fans.
I think that goes for any sports fan. I think I'm the ultimate reverse jinx. So
right.
That's
why I always bet on my team to lose. Because if they lose, I win money. But if they win, I'm happy.
You're
so,
right.
you can't lose in that scenario.
I tried to avoid. I don't really do too many bets on the Bears unless it's like I know it.
Smart.
When what was it last year? I had a huge wager that we did a live stream on. I put against the Panthers on Thursday Night Football. The only game I knew they were gonna, and I had to do money line. I didn't even do spread. The spread was like 3.5, and they didn't even cover.
Right.
So they just went straight up money line. But I think our defense is going to hold down the fort pretty well. We'll see how kind of Will Levis does. And obviously, this is game 1 of his year 2 campaign.
Right.
A little rusty.
Basically still a rookie.
Essentially, right? Essentially a rookie.
Yeah, only played 9 games.
Yep. And you got an injured D-Hop who, if he plays, is going to be, not in his best shape.
Limited for sure.
No Jamal Adams. Like I mentioned, the run game doesn't really scare me too much with our defense that we got going on. I think the unknown for us is the offense, right? Caleb Williams and how he'll perform against that defensive line that you guys got. And you got Snead, who's going to be, I don't know if he's going to shadow DJ, if he's going to just stay on one side with Keenan. You got Rome Dunze too. Can't forget about Rome. You got Cole Kmet, so a lot of players to cover on that. But the defense, I feel like, is going to match up with, I envisioning a couple takeaways here. Maybe Will Levis, throws a couple picks, or Montez Sweat gets that.
Definitely a possibility.
Yeah, so I think our secondary is really strong. So I got the Bears 28-17 covering also. But that's kind of just a dart in the dark there. So whatever how they have it, shot in the dark, whatever that saying is. So
yeah, I think shot in the dark. I mean, predicting what's going to happen, the score. If you could get it right all the time, we wouldn't be sitting here doing podcasts. We'd be in Vegas making a living. So I mean, at the end of the day, score, getting it right, getting it wrong. As long as your team comes out with a win, you got to be happy with that. So I just hope that I'm more happy than you on Sunday.
Well, we're going to be happy at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time over here.
No matter what.
Because football is back, right? We had football back yesterday.
Yes, sir.
But we got a survivor pool, too. If you want to join our community survivor pool, a little $5 entry. Just something fun to do with the community if you want to join that. If you're into the game. I got to see if this platform is legal in Ohio. But it's on Splash Sports. They do a bunch of contests. So, like pick'em contest and survivor pools, and they got golf ones.
I love a good survivor pool.
Yeah, college basketball, college football. So we're doing a survivor pool. But I do appreciate your time so much today, Tyler. Our first guest of the week. Super excited. Glad I got my biggest thing. I was not nervous about anything, just the technology, because it never works my way. You know how streaming is.
Yeah, we're fine.
All these.
I recorded a whole interview with a different Bears podcast this week for 51 minutes, and then found out afterwards that the guy didn't have his mixer set up right, and the whole thing was gone. So at least you didn't waste a full hour of my busy week.
No, we're streaming, so it's just a matter if the audio is gonna hear, if the listeners are gonna hear the audio, and no one said anything just yet, so hopefully they did. So. But good luck on Sunday. Go Bears, first of all. Go Bears. But I appreciate your time, Tyler. I hope that we can connect and stay in touch. If the Bears Titans Super Bowl preview, let's rekindle this relationship we got.
I'm in for that. And also, before I go, I'll pander a little bit. Chicago is my favorite city I've ever been to. I went a couple of years ago during the summertime. It was just absolutely magnificent walking around the city, shopping, the dining, doing river tours. Like, I did a full tourist experience, of course. You know what I mean? But dish, man, Chicago is a great city.
Grand Park, everything. Yeah, I go to Chicago. I try to go there once a year. I was just there in June for a wedding. And I will tell you, Chicago, in the summertime, between May and September, early October, Chicago is one of the most beautiful cities in the United States. And the world might be a little bit over in the world, possibly. I mean, I'm
saying it. Yeah, the world. I'm a big architecture guy. This is, again, really, really white mid-30s is what I sound like right now. But I love the architecture. I love the buildings and everything. Yeah, I wanted to be an architect when I was 6 years old. That kind of stuff. So cool. I love seeing all the different buildings and stuff like that. And I'm a big Batman fan. Me too. The Dark Knight was filmed there.
Team DC all the way.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I love the Marvel movies, but watching DC just get rolled all the time, it is hard. It is heavy on my heart, but hopefully James Gunn gives us a comeback. That's all I can ask.
R.I.P. Heath Ledger, because if it wasn't for that, and then Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale just kind of butting heads a little bit and then getting sick of it, who would have known how that Robin trilogy would have been, and that spinoff? And it's funny that you mentioned that, because when I went to this wedding, it was for a buddy in college at UAlbany. We had other buddies from college. He lives in the Bronx, New York City, Brooklyn.
Nice.
And he's like my DC Batman buddy. Like, we were in college, we'd go see all the movies, even the Marvel movies together. Right. But he's never been to Chicago before, and he's like, is that where they filmed The Dark Knight? So he was Googling everything. He's like,
Yeah.
is that where they
Yeah.
did that one scene? Is that where they robbed the bank? I'm like, yeah, for sure.
You could tell by the trains.
Yeah.
You can the trains underneath is how I was able to kind of like identify different stuff. It was pretty cool. But awesome, man. Well, good luck this week. Great show. Appreciate you having me on. And yeah, we'll be in touch at least during the game. AJ Brown got a catch, so good sign for you.
Oh, geez. I hope it's more than one. Hopefully it was a 40-yard catch and a touchdown. But I appreciate you so much, Tyler. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Go Bears. Go Bears. Go Bears. And I'll talk soon.
Tighten up. Later.
Da Bears.